بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As I promised you that inshallah I will demonstrate the lessons from Gaza and the West Bank that must shape our thinking and enable us to use that vital energy generated by our instincts and needs to awaken and reactivate our thoughts and revive this ummah. And that revival is needed so that we can re-establish the Islamic way of life, ruled by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's word, and carry the message to liberate mankind from subjugation and slavery to man to submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of man. This second lesson is the power of transformational change, driven by the idea of La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Our behaviors are the result of our vital energy, which drives the urge for and demands satisfaction, hunger, need for money, need for status, etc. Thus, man is compelled to act, either spoken or physical, to attain satisfaction of these needs. So when the Sahaba in Mecca radiallahu anhum had suffered terrible atrocities of torture and carried the burdens that would collapse mountains, they asked, as narrated by Al-Bukhari, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, would you not pray for us? Would you not seek assistance and support for us? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that you are hasty and expedient. Thus, Rasulullah ﷺ was making the point that our behavior must be designated by the concepts that we believe in and which compel the direction and nature of our behavior. Today, it is whether we let the painful and hurtful events in Gaza dictate our actions, or we use the events to think deeply with reference to our aqidah to identify how we bring about the resolution that pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is to say, how do we bring transformational change so that we can achieve the re-establishment of the Islamic way of life. As I said in the previous post, Gaza is al-Furqan of this generation. It is al-Hujjah, al-Bayyinah, al-Fasila. It is the authoritative and attested evidence and proof and conclusive and final showing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for us. This means we must use Gaza to think and search deeply into the reasons and courses to exit the problem, to move from being emotionally driven and to strive intellectually towards what we seek and they don't, which is the ridwan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's acceptance. This deep thinking will guide us to arrive at the root cause solution, the method to implement the solution, and the styles and means that support an effective implementation. Thus, our will, our irada, becomes steeled and never bends, nor does it become pliant until the goal is achieved or we perish in its pursuit. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَدُّوا لَوْ تُدْهِنُوا فَيُدْهِنُونَ in Surah Al-Qalam. They wish that you would soften in your position, so they would soften toward you. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, when offered expediency and immediate relief and money and position and status, he responded to them in the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, by Allah, if they place the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left so that I may let go of this matter, I will not until Allah makes it prevail or I perish. The root cause approach will unify the goal that we must strive to accomplish to reestablish the Islamic way of life, thus making the thought the energy that maintains the emotions ablaze and burning, rather than being led by our emotions. In effect, We will not therefore waste our energy in partial events that neither have a profound or lasting effect or lead us to achieving our goal. Rather, wasting our energy in pursuit of solutions from a kafir-controlled system that we know is rigged, but more importantly, from a Sharia perspective, it is taghut that we are forbidden to use and refer to. We as Muslims must strive for root societal change, whose goal is to re-establish Islamic way of life based on the idea of La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, that Allah is the divine sovereign, and to Allah only is servitude. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, هو الذي في السماء إله وفي الأرض إله. It is only He who is God in the sky and God on earth. This obligates transformational change upon all Muslims, that we don't submit and subjugate ourselves to what we carve, write and enshrine as laws by our own hands. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbids that and says, أَفَتَعْبُدُونَ مَا تَنْحِتُونَ. Do you worship what you carve? We must work tirelessly to remove the treasonous leaders and their serpents in the power centers. We working with the Ummah to adopt the idea and be confident in that the idea of La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah has all the solutions and treatments to the political, social, economic, legal, security issues, so that the goal becomes the goal of the Ummah and the idea becomes the idea of the Ummah. This is profoundly political work, starting from the grassroots to ensure that the idea of Islam is the idea of the Ummah. This requires the same level of commitment, endurance, forbearance, and sacrifice as we have seen in Gaza and the West Bank. In doing so, we must be aware of those who want to distract us, detract us, misdirect us, and point us towards emotional solutions that don't lead to the goal or emanate from the method of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam from transformational change that he carried out in Mecca until he achieved the state in Medina. Brothers and sisters, all change requires sacrifice, and Gaza has shown us the way. Now it is our turn. Now it is our obligation that we implement this change, work towards it, and put the sacrifices that we need to accomplish that. Jazakumullah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.